Today we will discuss first chapter of geography. Name of the chapter is resource and development. This is the first chapter of geography in class 10th. So in very simple sentence when we are discussing about a resource, what we can say here, anything available in the environment which can satisfy our need can be termed as a resource. Otherwise, you can see here very good definition is given here. Everything available in the environment which can be used to satisfy our needs, provided it is technologically accessible, economically feasible, and culturally acceptable, can be termed as resources. So, what we can say here, these three terms, it is technologically accessible, economically feasible, and culturally acceptable, are the three conditions to convert the gift of nature into the resources. First, let us discuss about technologically accessible. All of you know that to convert a gift of nature, take the example of iron ore. It is just a piece of rock. So to convert into useful item, we require technology. Then only it can be converted into either iron sheet, steel sheet to satisfy our needs. Then another one, economically feasible. At the time of developing or converting a gift of nature into a resource, we require sophisticated technology, and for that technology, we require capital. Without capital, technology cannot be developed. And another thing is that when a gift of nature is converted into a resource, at that time the expenditure what is required must always be less than the benefit what the people will get. Then only people will think to or plan to convert a gift of nature into a resource. And this diagram is showing you the interaction in between the human being, nature, and technology. So there is interdependence in between the nature, technology, and the human being. So we human beings interact with nature through the technology. So if we want to utilize iron ore, we require technology to mine, and after mining, we also require to convert into useful items. For that, we set up industry or the institution. So this diagram is showing you the interdependent relationship between nature, technology, and the institution. After that, we'll discuss about classification of resources. Resources can be classified on the basis of origin into two types, biotic resources and the abiotic resources. In very simple sentence, what we can say, the resources which are having life are known as biotic resources. Or in other words, the living components of the environment which can satisfy our needs can be termed as biotic resources. You can take the example of plants, animals, and human beings. Then another one, that is abiotic resources. So with regard to the abiotic resources, these are the resources which don't have any life. Or in other words, what we can say, non-living components of the environment which can satisfy our needs or the requirement can be termed as abiotic resources. You can take the example of minerals. It may be in the form of iron ore, coal, petroleum, natural gas. So all these are example of abiotic resources. Another classification, that is on the basis of renewability, or you can say the exhaustibility. On the basis of exhaustibility, resources can be of two types, renewable and the non-renewable. Renewable resources are those which can be replenished, which can be regenerated naturally by physical, chemical, and mechanical process in very short time. You can take the example of forest, wildlife. You can take the example of wind energy, solar energy, water. So these are the renewable resources because they can be replenished naturally in very short period of time. Then non-renewable resources. So non-renewable resources are exhaustible in nature because the formation, the pace of formation, the process of formation is very slow one. It take long geological time to form. You can take the example of fossil fuels. After consumption of the fossil fuel like coal, or you can say the petroleum, we have to wait for another million years to get new reserve. So such resources are non-renewable resources. Another classification, that is on the basis of ownership. On the basis of ownership, resources can be individual resources, the resources which are owned privately by an individual. Such resources can be termed as individual resources. You can take the example of some of the individual resources like plots of land, houses, then your parents may be having cars. So these are some of the examples of individual resources. Then community owned resources, these are the resources which are accessible to all the members of the community as per their wish or the requirement. You can take the example of grazing grounds, village ponds, public park, picnic spots. These are some of the examples of community resources. Then national resources. These are the resources which are lying within the territory of any country. You can take the example of roads, canals, minerals, then rivers, and even the what we call the oceanic zone up to 12 nautical miles from the coast is also included in the national resource. Then international resource, these are the resources which are owned by all the countries and regulated by certain international institution, and before utilizing these resources a country will have to take permission from international institution. You can take the example of oceanic resource beyond 200 km of the exclusive economic zone belong to the open ocean, and no individual country can utilize this without the concurrence of international institution. Then another one, that is on the basis of status of development. Resources can be potential resources, resources which are likely to exist in an area. So this type of resources, resource, what we can say, it is the imaginative data, because surveying and mapping has not been done. So simply we are imagining that in this or that area there will be the availability of this type of resource, and the quantity and quality of the resources may be this or that. So if you want, you can take the example of western part of India, particularly Gujarat and Rajasthan. These two states are having maximum potential to generate solar energy and the wind energy. But that is only potential. That is only the imaginative. We don't know how much amount of solar or the wind energy can be generated.